Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm a 38-year-old female. I have been a stay at home mom for the past 15 years. I met my husband, who is 40, when I was 20. We met at a service, and our families were good friends for years too. It was only natural for us to get married. I knew we were to get married the moment my mother introduced me to him. He was handsome, tall, and had a decent job and a house, so I had no complaints. After the wedding, he turned out to be a not so attentive husband, but I never said anything. I took whatever he gave me and lived my life with my children and family. Jess, my husband, strongly believed in family and its sticking together, so we always lived with his parents. I never had a problem with that either. They were nice and helpful around the house. Plus, it was a very big house to begin with. Living in it alone would have been scarier after all those horror movies I watched during my Sundays. So we had a big family, his parents, his little sister, the two of us, and our three children. We all lived under the same roof, and yes, there have been times I had wished for a different way of living, but more times than less, I had been grateful for what I had been given, except my husband. He never had strong, affectionate feelings towards me. I knew of this from the very start. He barely ever talked to me or said words of affection to me. We were like friends, not the kind of friends that shared pain and pros together, but the kind you make at your workplace, where you have to be friendly with the person you see every day. At first, I craved love and attention from my husband, so I did make a big deal out of it. But when my tantrums did nothing but increased his business trips, I stopped. Soon after, I had my first child, so I got busy with him and forgot about the fact that I was in a loveless marriage. My children became my center of attention, and I had left no time to ponder over my husband being less interested in me than a bark. Years had gone by. We had celebrated our 15th anniversary this spring. It was quite the evening with both our families and his work friends. He gave me a new ring as a gift and asked for my wedding ring since it was old and almost fading. The new one had many tiny diamonds on it, while the old one, which was my wedding ring, was a bit old fashioned and had a huge diamond wrapped in a gold band. I preferred my wedding ring over the new modern design, but I accepted the gift nonetheless. It was my 15th anniversary after all, and he made the effort to pick out a ring for me. That meant more to me than the whole stupid celebration. I was not greatly happy with my life, but I always distracted myself enough to not start sabotaging it because I knew it was pretty easy to do that if I just fought hard enough. So when it started getting too bad a few weeks after the anniversary, I had no choice but to notice. It happened gradually. Jess started to come home less and less. Before it was one or two nights of skipping home for work, he said, but now it was coming home one or two nights a week. He started missing even the parents teacher meetings at the kids' school. Then one day I found that our joint account had jewelry that was not mine. He bought a new car, and things were just screaming that something was wrong. I still blamed it all on my paranoia and tried to move past it. After a few days of watching it, even my mother in law and sister in law came to me asking if me and Jess had a big fight or something since he's hardly ever home, and he does not even talk to the kids anymore. After a few days of watching it, even my mother in law and sister in law came to me asking if me and Jess had a big fight or something, since he's ever hardly at home and he does not talk to the kids anymore. I lied to them that yes, we did have a fight and he is just a bit mad and will be all right soon. They did not look like they believed me, but I offered no further explanation, not like I had one. Then, one morning, I was making breakfast in the kitchen for everyone, and my sister in law was in the basement looking for her old skates to give to my second boy, since he was starting his skating classes the same day. I was putting the pancakes on the plate when she came running to me in the kitchen and handed me a file of yellowed papers. They looked old, very old. I looked at her confused and started reading what was on the papers. They were the papers of a property, the property that was in the same neighborhood as ours. My breath hitched when I realized the papers are of our house. It was from someone named Sylvie George. And it was not sold to Jess Marker, but simply given. I was still going through the papers when some photographs fell off the file. Wedding photographs. A simple wedding in an office. The girl was in a short, simple white dress with a tiny bouquet, and the guy standing in the picture was my husband. The rest of the papers were his wedding certificate that he signed the day those pictures were from, and the love letters between him and his love, Sylvie. It was betrayal. I knew he never loved me, that he had no more feelings towards me than he had a duty, but still it hurt me to see my husband of 15 years, the father of my 3 children, in the wedding photos with another woman, a very beautiful woman. Then I understood it all. It all got clear. The distant weeks and the new jewelry, the new car, it was all for her, for his other family that he probably has, since those wedding papers were dated before our wedding. Why did he agree to marry me if he was already married? If he already loved another? I broke down in the kitchen floor. The pancake on the stove started burning. Everyone watched as I cried there. My sister-in-law explained everything to her parents, and they also seemed surprised. At least they were not together in this sick plot of my husband. I wanted to ask him so many things, but I did not wait even a minute more. I packed my bags for me and both my children, took my baby girl out of her crib, and despite the many attempts of my in-laws to stop me, I left the house. I went straight to my brother's. He is a lawyer. I had no idea where else to go. My parents would take me in, but only for so long. They will eventually push me to go back to my husband and ignore whatever he has done or does. They would rather leave me like a blind woman than an independent one who can speak for her rights. My brother, on the other hand, always supported me. He even asked me many times if I was happy in my marriage with Jessie. I always lied that I am, but not anymore. I told him everything, showed him the papers I brought with me. He tells me that I can sue Jesse for fraud, as my marriage with him will hardly be legal if he already had a wife at the time of the wedding. He asked me if I want to sue him, and I do. But it will mean putting him and his family, that has also become now my family, all this. Am I the a-hole, guys? I don't know what to do. I loved him. I must have or would not have spent 15 years tending to his house that turned out was not even his own. I waited for 2 weeks before deciding what to do about suing my husband for fooling me into a marriage for 15 years. I was waiting for him to come and talk to me, to beg me for forgiveness or at least say sorry, but he did not. He never called or even cared enough to ask about the kids. His parents did call, but I did not talk to them. I was about to sue that whole family. I had no heart to talk to them because then my resolve would have melted. I loved my family, and all these years they became more to me than my parents had been. The marriage might have been false according to the law, but I believed it true, and so did they and my children, poor little kids, still think we're just visiting their uncle for summer. It was true for everyone except Jessie, who knew it was false and acted like that all these years, but I was so blinded that I never questioned. So now, when he made no attempts to reach out to me or the kids, I decided I am going to ask for justice for all the time I spent in falsehood. Within a day of my brother sending a notice, I got a call from him. I did not talk. I told my brother to tell him my decision is final. My brother told me that he just needed to talk to me, that he had not been home in weeks and had no idea what went down. He was coming to meet me, and after meeting him, I can decide whatever I want and sue him for everything she thought he did wrong. I waited and waited. It was 2 days later that he showed up. He went to meet the kids first, hugged and kissed each one like he really loved them. Maybe he did. Those were his kids, no doubt. After making sure the kids were good and well fed, he came to me, and for the first time in months, he hugged me. I started crying as soon as he put his arms around me and started asking him why did he do this to me, that he did not love me. He could have told me, but lying to me for so many years was just cruel. He hushed me with such tenderness and told me that our marriage was not false and it was real, and so are our kids. I looked at him, expecting more, and yes, there was more. Sylvie George was the only daughter of rich businessman. He met her during his college, and it was love at first sight. She also felt the same, and they had no reason to not get married. He admitted that it was a bit foolish and reckless. Her parents did not approve of it because he did not even have a house, and then Sylvie bought the house we lived in and transferred it to Jess's name. Her parents never approved, but they were in love, and Sylvie was pregnant within months into their relationship, so they impulsively got married. He loved her and he wanted to live with her in this house she bought and gave it to him as a wedding gift. But Sylvie could not make it through the birth. She gave birth to their daughter, but herself could not survive. He was broken without her. He never wanted to marry, but his responsibilities towards his family made him. His daughter lived with Sylvie's parents, and they wished he moved on with his life and never told anyone about it if he wanted to stay in his daughter's life. So he never said anything. And this last week was her daughter's wedding, and he wanted to give that ring that he married me with to her and Sylvie's daughter. The ring was originally Sylvie's. He offered to introduce me to his daughter if I still had doubts. He apologized for everything and accepted he could never love me the way he loved her, but he could never ask for a better wife after Sylvie, and he never would have lied to me about something so important like our marriage. This brought tears to my eyes. You are such a good wife, a good human overall. And Jesse? I thought he was a douchebag, but he turned out to be a wounded, lovesick puppy. I hope you guys can find love in each other. You are best for each other. NTA, you did not know things. He should have told you. I understand he promised her parents and everything, but now you and your kids were his family. So I think you deserve to know. My girlfriend and I have been dating for a few months, and for a double date, we went with my friend and his girlfriend to go rock climbing. I don't know the first thing about rock climbing, so he did all the rope work and taught us how to belay. It was pretty thrilling, and my girlfriend was a little scared but enjoying it. He climbed up, bringing the rope up, set anchors, and we just top roped. We hiked to another part of this canyon, and he said this was the place him and his girlfriend, um, Simon rappelled, not sure if that's how you spell it. He said it was amazing but dangerous and was explaining the rope set up to do it. He joked it was the climber's version of a couple's trust fall. My girlfriend asked if we could do it since there is still some time left, and he said it was dangerous and that it needed to be done with two people. My girlfriend looked at me and said I was down for anything, and the friend looked uncomfortable and told her any weight difference over about 50 pounds between the two people isn't a good idea, and ideally the weights are as close as possible since we would essentially be balancing each other. He said there were safer techniques. Simul is just faster. My friend and his girlfriend are skinny people, as is basically everyone we've seen climbing that day. I'm a bigger dude at 220 to 230 pounds, and I don't know my girlfriend's weight, but it's not a bad guess that she's more than 50 pounds than me. My friend is a total adrenaline junkie, and I think if he says it's dangerous, it's best not to do it. My girlfriend looked really unhappy but didn't say anything. She is insecure about her weight, and during sex, she doesn't like me touching her belly, arms, and legs. On the drive home, my girlfriend was ranting about what an asshole my friend was. I got annoyed that she was bad mouthing him because he was nice enough to let us use his gear and show us the ropes. Ha ha. I told her he is the expert, and she complained he was just eyeballing her weight, and I asked if she would be okay with standing on scales and me to confirm we were less than 50 pounds difference. She got really mad and said it doesn't matter if there was a 50-pound difference. He was judging her for her weight, and I didn't come to her defense. I was pretty annoyed and told her I wasn't coming for my friend who was only looking out for our safety. She called it fat shaming, and I guess it was to an extent, but he's also not wrong. NTA, I am the first person to call out fat shaming. This was not fat shaming at all. Your friend was the person familiar with the equipment and was responsible for pointing out both the logistics and safety of this activity. This is an activity that requires two people within 50 pounds of each other. Two people of your weight, weren't present. The fact that she happened to be the heaviest person there caused her to feel shame, but the source of that shame is society, not your friend. She just felt attacked because she is so insecure. If you have no self esteem, you think everything is a dig at your weakness. Every look is at you because XX. Every laugh is about you, and every comment is just about you. Either she must work on her insecurity with therapy or work on her weight, if it is possible. No weight gain because of illness or medication. Attacking the friend because she is insecure and take comments wrong is just her problem. NTA. Trisha and I, both female, 32, met in college and quickly became best friends. However, after graduation, we slowly drifted away. I haven't seen her in 5 years. We talk every month. She was going to be in my city for a few days and offered to meet up. I was thrilled, and when she asked if she could sleep at my house, I agreed. Tricia knows that I always dreamt of becoming a writer, and she knew that is how I earn my living. I've self-published several romance novels under a pen name and have been making money that way, but a while ago, I scored a contract with a big publisher. And while not crazy successful, my book was still successful enough that they were happy to publish my second book, which I am currently working on. Again, all this was published under a pen name, so Tricia didn't know what books I published. My current work in progress has a lot of occult stuff in it, and I've done a lot of research and have binders with notes spread around my house whenever I'm working. But before Tricia's visit, I put them away neatly in my office. Once Tricia arrived, I realized that we weren't the same people we were in college and that we've changed so much that I doubt we should even call each other friends anymore. We barely had anything to talk about, and it was awkward, but it was only for a few days. In one evening, she managed to belittle my career. She kept asking when I would get a big girl's job and that it was time to grow up and stop pretending. She implied that because I wrote under a pen name that I must be lying and probably work at McDonald's. I tried to explain, but eventually let it go and ignored her tirade. She came over on Friday. On Saturday morning, I woke up to someone shouting and throwing stuff around. I jumped out of my bed and ran to my office, which seemed to be the source of the noise. I found Tricia in my office screaming. She accused me of being possessed, told me that if she knew I had demon stuff in my home, she would have never set foot in my house. I tried to calm her down, but she ignored me. She went snooping in my office to prove that I was lying, and that's when she found my notes for my current work in progress. She also found notes I used for one of my steamy romance book, which included some explicit photos. She was absolutely furious about everything, screaming her head off. I kicked her out, told her to get her things and leave. Surprisingly, she complied. However, today I got a call from her husband, whom I've only met once, who started screaming at me for kicking his wife out. Apparently, she had to stay in a hotel, which they couldn't afford, and she called me all sorts of names before I hung up. I feel bad for kicking her out without checking if she had anywhere to stay. It was daytime, but still, something could have happened to her, and I did say she could have stayed at my house. Was I really the a-hole for kicking her out? She snuck into your office, went through your stuff, yelled at you, and also demeaned your work and how you make your money. She can kick rocks, NTA, and glad she's at a hotel and not messing with you anymore. Now, go back to writing your stuff and don't think twice about this. She's way out of line, not you. NTA, if she couldn't afford to stay in a hotel, she should have been a better guest.